Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 8th annual edition of SR, Socially Relevant Film Festival, New York. This is our first talk, our first chat with Meet the Filmmakers. And of course, the festival officially opens tomorrow. And at 5 p.m., on this very channel, on our YouTube channel, we have a small launch event where all the filmmakers who are part of the festival will be there, will be available to say hello to you as we segue into the next Meet the Filmmakers chat. So in this case, in this particular session, we have climate change and sustainability, and we have the filmmakers who are awaiting to meet with you all and chat and tell you about their films, which are going to start streaming tomorrow. As of 1 minute past midnight, this morning, actually, with daylight savings time. By the way, we are in New York, Eastern Daylight Savings Time, but wherever you are in the world, you can tune in. This is the advantage of being online. So we should look at it as a silver lining for what happened after COVID hit last year, 4 days short of our opening at the Lincoln Center. And we were obliged a couple of months later to take our festival online. So I'm going to reserve all my hyped up introduction speech and why I started the festival and so on and so forth to the next session when we actually do the launch. But now we're going to go back to our filmmakers, and I'm going to welcome them into the studio and hand it over to our moderator so we can start the session. Our moderator for this session is Nadine Asman, and she is a young Lebanese director with a bachelor's degree in cinema and TV from the Lebanese University and a master's degree in cinema and audiovisual from Paris 1 University, Panthéon-Sorbonne. She is a PhD candidate in film studies at the University of Western Brittany in France, and her senior short film, The Blind of the Cathedral, which was made in 2015, won 11 international awards and got over 40 nominations. She wrote and directed her second short film, Perhaps Today, produced in 2017, which was a winner also of 6 awards and nominated for over 30 prizes, including AAIFF's Excellence in Short Filmmaking and Duroc EFF's Golden Leaf for Best Short Film, World Cinema. Nadine is also co-founder, partner, and producer at Movie Tailor Pictures, a film production, distribution, and sales company. We are happy to have Nadine as one of the festival team members this year. As you know, SRFF is a nonprofit film festival, and all the people who are team members are volunteers. So if there are out there anybody who would think, oh, wow, this is a cool festival, why don't I go and become part of this team, which is such a fantastic team? This is your chance. And as audience members, whoever is listening in, there is a comments section. You can put, I'm going to start the first, you can put your comments and questions here. So as we progress, I'm going to be on the lookout to see if somebody has put any question there. And oh, I misspelled it. I guess I can't go back and fix it, or can I? Let me see if I can. No, we cannot do that. Okay, questions here, everything went as one word. So, but people will figure that out. So whoever wants to ask questions to our filmmakers here, they are welcome to do so. So I am going to go quickly and say that this session is the session for climate change and sustainability. And the reason why we put the two together is because they are very closely related. Some of the films talk about urbanization, or they talk about like, for example, Willingboro, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow is a film that talks about the abandonment of certain cities after the closure of certain factories or mines or whatever the case might be. And that is a very strongly environment and sustainability related issue as well. And then, of course, Unbreathable is very much an environmental issue. Growing for Good is environmental. Organic and sustainable agriculture is environment. And we had a feature film, but I don't see the filmmaker. I just emailed them. Maybe they had a problem. Let me double check. If they happen to appear at a later stage in the interview process, we are obviously going to include them. So I'm very happy to hand over to moderate to Nadine. Maybe we can take a round and everybody can briefly take a minute or two and introduce themselves, say something about their film before Nadine starts with the question round. Thank you all. First of all, I need to take this opportunity again and thank, gratitude, not only to our wonderful filmmakers who trusted us with their films, who brought us their wonderful films, but also to our sponsors, to our partners who have been accompanying us from the beginning, and also to our audience members, because if we don't have audience members, we might have fantastic films and nobody will watch them. We don't have films, we might have some sponsors who want to give us money, but what would they give us money for? So we won't have a festival. So everything is very closely interrelated. So I'm very happy to welcome you all. And I give you the mic, Nadine, so to say, the proverbial mic, so you can ask the questions and have them introduce themselves.
Thank you, Nora. Good evening from Paris, and good afternoon for everyone in New York and around the world, whatever you are. First of all, I would like to ask our filmmakers to introduce themselves and briefly talk about your films. So probably we will just begin with Josh. If you can please introduce yourself and tell us what's your film about.
Thank you. I'm delighted that my film was accepted into this festival, and I congratulate all the other filmmakers who I'm sure are equally delighted at having been selected. I have just started to present my films through festival circuit. About a year ago, I started with another of my films, which is on union organizing and has been in 12 festivals. This is now my effort to present my film on organic and sustainable agriculture, which I believe is intimately related to issues of climate change, because conventional commercial agriculture is going to be undermined by the droughts that exist increasingly throughout the world, the floods that are faced simultaneously by others, and particularly small farmers are going to find it very difficult going with all of those conditions added to the pressures of industrialization of agriculture throughout the world. So I will talk about more of that as we get on.
Thank you, Josh. Now, Van and Morgan, please, could you please introduce yourselves and your film?
Hi, my name is Morgan Paar.
And I'm Van Nguyen.
And our film is about a couple who converted an empty lot in an urban area and converted it into an organic farm. And then they worked with a local school and sent everything that came from that farm to 2 food pantries in the neighborhood. And so it's about the farm, about the school, and about the pantry. Anything?
I think that's about it. I think the part that was that stands out for me was the children learning about the issues that the local neighborhood had with hunger, and then also learning how to grow food, fresh produce to supply to the two pantries.
So what's kind of interesting is in the central west end of St. Louis, the central west end of St. Louis is one of the richer neighborhoods in St. Louis, but there are still hungry people here. And so the point that the farmers wanted was they wanted to say the problem of hunger can be addressed directly within the neighborhood where it is by neighbors of those people. So it was a very interesting story.
Thank you, Van and Morgan. Now we will go to Kelvin. Could you please introduce yourself and your film? Kelvin, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Sorry. No, first of all, I wanted to say that myself and my producer, Carla Jackson, were both honored to be invited to screen our film Willingboro yesterday, today, and tomorrow at the Socially Responsible Film Festival. My name is Kelvin, and I'm the director and editor of the film. And our film follows the history of what was once the gold standard of suburban community post-World War II in the United States, but it's since fallen on hard times. Back in the 50s, Willingboro was it was actually called Levittown at the time, when it was first chartered was a whites-only segregated community, and it took a number of years and a lawsuit in the early 60s that went all the way up to New Jersey Supreme Court for Willingboro to allow African Americans to purchase there. Cut to today, and Willingboro is primarily African American, struggles with high crime and low-performing schools. I grew up there, and I remember Willingboro in the 70s and in the early 80s as being a wonderful, wonderful community, very diverse, got great education there. And I just wanted to go back and to explore how a community that started it's with so much promise has fallen on the hard times that it's fallen on. And also to end on a hopeful note, because there's a lot of positivity happening in the town as it tries to reinvent itself today.
Thank you, Kelvin. And our last filmmaker is Elizabeth. Could you please introduce yourself and your film?
Hi, everyone. And again, it's an honor to be here among these incredible filmmakers and to have Unbreathable screen at the Socially Relevant Film Festival. So thank you so much for including us. I am the producer on the film, and our director, Maggie Burnett-Stogner, is an incredibly talented director, and she couldn't be here with us today, but she sends her best wishes. So our film is about kind of the past 50 years since the Clean Air Act was enacted in the United States, and how it's really helped to overall clean up the air across America. But as we were researching, a lot of issues emerged with various communities across the country. So we dove into some of those stories where clean air is very much impacting communities and the health impacts that go along with that. So I look forward to sharing more about that.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. So I would like to dig in a little bit in your and how in the craft of the films, of each one of your films. So my question is also common to the five of you and the four films. So the question is, how did the idea come about? What was like, what particularly drew your interest towards each one of your subjects in your respective films? So I don't know who would like to volunteer first.
I'll go.
Okay,
you know, as I was just saying, you know, I grew up since the third grade in in a community that was very diverse, was very wonderful. They had plenty of activities for young people to do, mostly around outdoor activities. It was South Jersey, so it wasn't the city. I mean, it wasn't the city. It was 30 miles out of Philadelphia, but it was in what I call cow country. So lots of open fields, lots of exploring, lots of riding bicycles. They had tons of public schools because Willingboro is set up around what they call parks, which are different divisions. And each park has its own, it's basically centralized around an elementary school, a swimming pool, and then also a basketball court. So it was kind of like every summer you just lived basically at the basketball court and at the swimming pools. And like I said, the education was wonderful. We all had a very strong sense of community. My mother, we purchased a home, and I went away to school. I went away to Howard University in Washington, D.C. And my mother, every year, she had a huge Thanksgiving dinner that she would cook. And we would all of my siblings, all 7 of us, and all of our children, and so on and so forth, the extended family would come back home. And I noticed over the years, every year I would come back, things would slowly but surely kind of be different, and not in a good way. And it really, the idea for a film came to me when I was walking around waiting for dinner. And I walked down to the elementary school, and this is about maybe 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. And I noticed, the flagpole, there was a flag up there, American flag, but the flag was like tattered, like torn and tattered, kind of flapping in the wind. And I actually took pictures of it. And it's not like the school was abandoned or closed. This is elementary school that's still open. And I was just wondering, like, this would never happen when I was a child, that no one would take the time to actually, take care of the flag. It would not look like this. So I started asking myself, like, what is going on and how did this happen? And then I started thinking, I was in film school, and I started thinking that this would be a great film at some point. And it just kind of stuck with me over the years, over the decades. And finally, I just pulled the trigger and started shooting and taking notes and researching and all of that. So that's kind of how it all kind of came about for me.
And didn't you think of probably an option of making it a fiction film rather than a documentary, or it was just automatically a documentary stating the realities and facts?
That's a great question, especially since I actually started my career as a screenwriter and a narrative filmmaker. So I never in my wildest dreams looked at myself as a documentary filmmaker. But to answer that question, it never came to me that this should be fictionalized. It just felt like an exploration of how a town kind of devolved to the state that it was in. And I felt that it was the type of story that suited itself to going back home and interviewing people and getting a history from elders who are still in the community to young people, and just sort of get a kind of 360 look at the past, the present, and the future of it. So that was pretty much what it always felt like to me. So it was always a documentary.
Thank you so much, Kelvin.
Sure.
Morgan, could you please tell us how the idea came and how things started to...
I think it's a little bit of a connection problem.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a connection error, but I think I heard most of that. So the woman who runs the pantry helped us with a previous film project. And we had been traveling a lot and making films, sort of travel films. And we loved the travel, but they weren't very meaningful. These short films on a hotel or on a brewery in New Zealand or swimming with seals in South Africa. So we said we looked for a project that would be more meaningful, more socially relevant, something that we feel good making. And so we came back to St. Louis, where my mother lives, and went to go speak to Barbie. And while we were speaking with her, we learned that not only did she run this pantry, but there was a farm that was 3 blocks away that was growing organic food. So we met with the 2 farmers, Nancy and Arthur, and we realized that what we thought was going to be a quick little, maybe shoot for 8 days and make a 5-minute film, turned into something much, much bigger. With the students, with the farm, with the pantry, we ended up shooting 44 days over 8 months, and it was the biggest project we've worked on to date.
Thank you so much. Now, Josh, could you please tell us how your film began to see the light, let's say, on the paper, and then later on to shoot it, and in the production process, the pre-production, production, and post-production?
Sure. The films that I make are generally in support of social change organizations. And my film is also, but it started with a personal story in that 20 some odd years ago, my family was part of a CSA, a community supported agriculture, which many people may be familiar with. If you're not, it is sort of a payment in advance of a lump sum to a farmer who brings food to a farm market, at which anyone who has provided this lump sum gets a share over a period of the growing season, and had some of the most luscious strawberries I've ever had through that process. Shortly thereafter, I learned about an organization called the Rodale Research Institute, which is in southeastern Pennsylvania. And this is an internationally renowned research center, which for many, many years has had as its mission the demonstration of both the physical and the economic feasibility of having farmers convert from conventional chemical agriculture with fertilizers, pesticides, fungicides, to an organic. And the results have been that over a number of decades, they've been able to demonstrate with side-by-side plots that organic processes, which are focused on the building of the soil in order to create a nutrient-rich soil, has either equaled or exceeded the results from the conventional chemically farmed plots. Particularly, they did large-scale studies on corn, because they're in a region where corn is a major crop, corn and soybeans especially, for small farmers. And what they have shown in addition to that is that organic products generally can be sold for a higher price than conventional products. And as a result, farmers who are desperate for income because of the depletion of their soil that comes from the chemical inputs and from competition with much larger farms, which have a much greater volume and can therefore sell at a lower price, those farmers will be the greatest beneficiaries of a transition to organic agriculture. At the same time, this is a beacon to the world, because soils are being depleted throughout the world. In the United States, which has had for generations some of the richest farmland in the world, the prospect is that the whole food belt, Kansas, Nebraska, all of the states that have fed the rest of the world, California, are going to be faced with a monumental crisis of sustainability. In addition to all of the other problems that come from chemical inputs, whether it is water pollution from the runoffs of these toxic chemicals, and consequently, not only is the Rodale Research Institute demonstrating to small farmers how they can sustain themselves, but also demonstrating to the world that these processes of building the soil through composting, through crop rotation, are able to regenerate the soil and help to provide food for the next generation.
Thank you so much, Josh. And briefly also with Elizabeth, how did the idea come from? And yeah.
Sure. Yeah, the idea for Unbreathable came about when a collaboration between the Center for Environmental Policy at American University and the Center for Environmental Filmmaking at American University realized the 50th anniversary of the Clean Air Act was coming up. The enact originally passed in 1970 and was really an incredible kind of bipartisan effort to enact some regulation around how do we clean up our air. And at the time, I wasn't alive, obviously, but a lot of people could recall that many cities across the United States, you couldn't see the sky, you couldn't see the skyline. Our rivers were on fire. The environment was in a pretty awful state in the 60s, 50s, and 40s. So I think it was to really kind of honor that 50 years. And today, many places across the United States, the air is extremely, extremely better. But as we were researching, it became very clear and relevant that a lot of communities are still suffering from air pollution. So I think it was a real effort on our part to make sure we dove into those stories and why. And in the film, we talk about fence line communities or dumping ground communities that are oftentimes people of color, oftentimes poorer communities that are really left behind. When you look at the Clean Air Act and what it's done for the United States broadly, these communities don't have the same benefit or are in many ways victims of industry and pollution that is really unfortunate. And I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to fight for clean air and healthy air for all across the country.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. So I'll continue with you and ask you, how did you find out about Socially Relevant Film Festival? And why did you think that your film would be a good fit for this festival? Of course, putting aside that it tackles a social issue, a social interest, and it's a common problem like everywhere around the world. But is there another reason why you submitted the film to the festival? And of course, how did you find out? Did you know it, or probably mouth to mouth? Or
yeah, we are Maggie Burnett-Stogner, the director of the film, had a previous film in the festival, In the Executioner's Shadow, that examined the death penalty in the United States. So as soon as she saw the call for this festival, she was like, yes, our film would be perfect for this. So we're grateful to be considered again. And I think our film kind of captures the idea, and some of our stories capture the idea that clean and healthy air is a human right, and everyone should have access to clean and healthy air. So I think it's an incredibly relevant film. And not to drag out the pandemic, but we finished filming exactly a year ago. Our last interview was March 15th, a year ago. So we got in just under the wire, but as we were editing and as we were beginning to roll out this film, clear research was being shown that COVID-19 rates were linked to poor air pollution, and that kind of health relevancy, I think, really made it a social issue as well.
Thank you. As for Van and Morgan, how did you find SRFF? Why did you submit, and so on? Tell us your story.
Well, we were researching specifically socially relevant type of film festivals because we felt like feeding the hungry was, an issue that is worldwide. We actually discovered your festival on Film Freeway and felt it was the perfect fit after reading all the description about your festival and going to your website. I think the thing that I think that is relevant for this festival is that you sometimes don't realize that hunger is a problem in your community, and even if it's a well-to-do community. So that I think is a big issue that people need to realize. And then the other thing that I thought was great is taking vacant lots and turning it into an organic farm. Using a lot that has just been sitting there and then turning it into something good and doing something good with it. And then the other thing too is the children, they don't know sometimes they don't know what's going on within their own community, and to get them out there being involved with nature, being involved with farming and, getting their hands dirty. And then also to realize that what they're learning is doing something good for the people that are hungry. And so I think that's very relevant. And the other part too is that most pantries do not provide fresh organic produce. It's usually canned, packaged goods. And I thought that this, what the Urban Farmers, author Nancy were doing was a really good thing for trying to feed people who need food with healthy organic produce. And the thing that they do is they don't eat any of their food they don't take anything from their farm. Everything they grow specifically goes to the farm, to the pantry. So I think that's it.
Thank you so much. What about you, Kelvin?
Similar to what Vaughn just said, I found a socially responsible film festival through Film Freeway. We were very particular about the festivals we wanted to apply and hopefully get in. We didn't want to do a blanket approach there. We all know there's a million festivals out there, and you can be in a million festivals if you so choose. But we were really particular about the festivals we wanted to be in. And what I really liked about the socially relevant film festival was the story, Nora's backstory of why she founded the festival in the first place, and the idea of counter programming against a lot of the gun violence that we see that is just pretty much embedded in our consciousness every day on TV. And that really resonated with me. And also as the mission of programming human interest stories that raise awareness around social problems, but that also offer positive solutions, again, counter programming to a lot of the negativity that we see out there. And I think our film does that. Our film actually shows a problem, it presents a problem, but it ends, as I said earlier, on a positive note and a hope for the future. So it just felt like a good fit, and I was extremely, extremely happy when we got accepted. So thank you, Nora. I see you're back.
Thank you so much. Just as a general comment that I always see with filmmakers, and having been a filmmaker myself, we do get a lot of emails or from filmmakers that you can tell it's a blanket cover letter, that they have just written this form letter. They haven't even bothered to check the guidelines to see if their film fits within our guidelines. You won't believe it, but we have received gun violence films in this festival when the whole idea about it is against it. So my advice, it's not to you, obviously, because you did the right thing. To any filmmakers out there who are listening, take the time to pair yourself up with the right film festival. Because if it's not a correct match, if it's not the right match, A, you will not be included. B, if it's a festival that shows thousands of films, you might be included, but you will not get the right treatment or the focus that you deserve. So what does it say? What purpose does it serve? So.
And you will lose from your budget as well.
Yeah,
the distribution budget.
Plus it costs money to submit. So you're throwing away your money. Yeah, let's go quickly to Josh as well. So he tells us how he thought this was convenient, because we're already running after time, because this is so interesting. I wish we had 2 hours per session, but unfortunately that would mean that I am online 24/7. So quickly give us an idea.
I have the good fortune of living in New York City, and I have been to Lincoln Center cinemas many, many times in many, many years, and have attended some of the screenings in past years of the Socially Relevant Film Festival. I initially thought of seeking acceptance of my union organizing film, but as that had already been accepted at a dozen other festivals, I thought that I would submit this film to the Socially Relevant Festival. And I'm delighted that it was selected and paired with Van and Morgan's film, especially because I think that they dovetail with one another.
Absolutely.
And I look forward to speaking with the two of you afterwards.
At the cafe. We have Cine Cafe every morning. From Monday to Saturday, we have every morning from 10 to 11, we have Cine Cafe hours, where I'm going to grab my coffee mug and sit here and welcome everybody to come in and tell their stories, network together, because we don't have an in-person experience, so we might as well create that online. And on that note, I was also going to say that the films are paired together very carefully. Another message I would like to spread out to any filmmakers that may be watching is sometimes your film is not accepted. It's not because it was a bad film. Please, please don't take it upon yourself that, oh my God, my film wasn't accepted, so they hate it. Not at all. Sometimes for us, it's more difficult to decide what we are going to exclude than what we are going to include. The exclusions are not so evident. If it were bad films, bad, you can throw them away and you're left with 5 great films and you end up showing them. No, unfortunately, we might end up with 5 films that didn't read the guidelines, were off track, went on and on about the topic, but didn't quite treat it, or maybe production values were not quite there. But basically, everything that's presented is so right on and so good that we have a hard time every year. And the idea of how to put the program together so that it's coherent. We have 12 different themes this year. I'm not going to repeat them. It's on the website. So, and they are prompted by the films that have been submitted. They are not themes that we came up with in the middle of the night and said, oh, this year, let's do this or let's do that. So thank you all very, very much. Oh my God, we're almost 9 minutes over. Let me read quickly what Michael Claes, who is our board member and a member of our team, said. Your films highlight the importance of individual behavior at the local and community level, as well as collective action. Your work is much appreciated. And thank you, Michael, for voicing that. It's very important that our filmmakers know that we are appreciating their work. This is very, very important because we are together in this. And there was one other comment which I cannot quite find. Somebody was asking, how is it that communities become non-existent? But the answer to that, I think, is by coming and seeing your film. So I will repeat, tickets are for sale, $7 a unit, but you do yourself a favor by buying an all-access pass and see all 63 films from 33 countries for the fraction of a cost of a cup of coffee per film. So I think I'm going to wrap here and say thank you all very much. Thank you, Nadine, for moderating. It always is short of time. I wish we could sit here and chat forever, but do come to the coffee hour starting Monday morning, and also the happy hours every other day. And those will be situations where people can just chat and introduce themselves.
Nora, was that the senior cafe?
Cine Cafe.
Ah,
Cine like cinema, not senior.
otherwise, I would get in. Absolutely.
No, you would get in because of the cine, not because of the senior.
or both.
Or both, exactly.
Well, thank you all. I look forward to seeing everyone's film, and it's been, like I said, an honor, Nora, for the opportunity
So much.
to screen.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Let's
thank you for organizing this.
Planner one more
so
time
much.
so people catch the thing. And
Good
this
luck,
is going
everybody.
to be
Good luck.
available on our YouTube channel. So people who have missed it, we have some people who are watching. I can see the numbers. Whoever missed it, tell your friends. Share it on your social media or your email list so that people can catch it later. Thank you.
Thank you
Bye,
so much.
everyone.
Bye,
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.